And now, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce your favourite laughter appetiser, poured straight from a Guinness bottle, Mrs Shufflewick.
Introduce myself to those of you who have not had the pleasure of hearing me before. Mrs Shufflewick is the name, star of stage, screen, radio and television, labour exchange and dope parties. formerly known on the British Music Hall as Poppet Upper and her educated sheepdogs. Do you like the fur? This cost £200, this fur did. I didn't pay for it myself. I met 200 fellas with £1 each. So I was all right, I wasn't done, was I? I can't remember myself now, to tell you the truth. No, it's the gin and tonic, you see, it fogs the brain. But this is very rare, this fur. This is known in the trade as untouched pussy. Yes, which is unobtainable in the West End of London at the moment. And I don't think there's much knocking about anywhere else. But still, you're very lucky to see me at all tonight in the flesh, because I don't know if you know, but I am weak-willed and easily led. Thank God. And last night, I must tell you this. Last night, I was sitting up in bed about 7:30, mending a puncture. I was, yes, I had a blowout. Not a blow through, a blowout. That's the last time I'll buy any of those rubber goods. Anyway, I was sticking this patch on, you see, and all of a sudden I had it coming on again. You know, one of me hot flushes. Do you get them? Oh, I do. I have to blow down my blouse on the buses. I thought to myself, well, it's no good me lying here sweating. I thought the best thing I can do is to slip into something loose and pop down to the local and have a little drop of something just to, you know, pull me together. And, of course, you don't know well, of course you wouldn't know my local, but it's a lovely pub. It really is. It's called the Cock and Comfort. Oh, it's a beautiful place. Mind you, there's more comfort than there is in most other places. Anyway, I was sitting there, you see, in the saloon bar, minding my own business with a glass of Guinness, doing no harm to anyone, and all of a sudden the door opened, like it might be there, you see, and this sailor walked in. I'd never seen him before. I think he was in the Navy myself. You know. And I also think he must have had a French mother and father, because he kissed me on both cheeks. And I was doing my shoelace up. Anyway, I didn't say anything, and he popped himself down beside me, not so much as please, may I, or kiss my foot, or anything. And then he leant over and he spoke with his voice while he was talking, you know, with his mouth. And he said, excuse me, he said, I know you won't mind me saying this, but all you do remind me of Elizabeth Taylor. So I thought, hello, my luck's changed here. I said, well, that's very kind of you. I said, is it my figure? So he said, yes, it's gone for a Burton. And before I had any chance to make sort of some witty comeback, he leant over a bit closer still, and he said, would you care for a little something between your lips tonight? I know, that's what I thought. So I said, what had you in mind, actually? So he said, oh, a little something to shove down your guts. Oh, a proper gentleman. So I said, well, that's very kind of you. I'm rather partial to a large port. So he went off and he came back with this picture of Southampton Dock. And then he did something that I have never seen anyone do in a public house before. And I hope I shall never see it again if I live to be 32. He suddenly, without a word of warning, whipped out... You might wait until I finish. He whipped out this packet of picture postcards, what he'd brought back from the Middle East, and quite honestly, I have never seen anything so Have you seen them? Oh my God, they make your toes curl. 58 different ways to shake hands. And they're all in Agricolor. How those people get themselves in those positions, I shall never... Well, I couldn't do it. I've never been asked. No, but honestly, they are going a bit too far. I mean, there's all these women with no clothes on, and it's disgusting. And there's all these fellas with even less, bless them. And they've got themselves, you know, sort of in this attitude with one leg on the mantelpiece and the other one in the coal bucket, you know, and they're away and they don't seem to talk at all, do they? I know it's rude to speak with your mouth full. No, you'd think they'd say something, wouldn't you, quite? No, I gave them back to him after 3/4 of an hour. And I put my magnifying glass back in my handbag. And I said, listen, I have no wish to look at this type of literature. Thank you very much. I said, as far as I'm concerned, you can get behind me, Satan. And you know, those were the worst few words. Well, you know yourselves what sailors are like. I mean, no sooner the words than the actions. Oh, they're frustrated. Well, he was last night. He was telling me, he said he just spent 6 months on a banana boat round the Arctic Circle. I mean, you can't mess about with penguins, can you? They walk so fast. And they're too near the ground anyway. But still, he calmed down eventually. He kept buying me large gins, you know, and I kept drinking them. Well, I'm just a pretty face. And he was on pints of rum and black. And then we went on to Guinnesses. I had about 18 of those. And then I had a baby sham with some horse liniment in it. What did I have then? Oh, I had a barley wine I remember that going down and coming back. And then he would make me have this glass of Advocat, which quite honestly I cannot get on with. I don't know what they do with the cats afterwards. Oh, I felt shocking. I had to go outside for a bit. I didn't get it. And when I came back, do you know that little monkey, while I'd been gone, he'd lined up 2 large drambuies and a fish cake each. And quite honestly, I think it was that fish cake that upset me. I really do. I felt shocking when we came out of that pub. Well, I say came out. We was asked to leave. No, it wasn't me. It was him, you see, messing about. And I tell you what it was. He'd had a couple of these pills. You know, the ones you read about in the Sunday papers. Not the birth pills, of course. I forget what he said the name was. Sort of coming on pills. Or so, I think that. Anyway, he said they're very strong. He said you have to swallow them quick, otherwise you get a stiff neck. And he had these 2, and he was rampant. Honestly, he was rampant. He was jigging up and down, you know, twanging my knicker elastic. And throwing his pension book in the air as if there was no tomorrow. Well, I didn't mind. There was a fella behind the bar, you see. He was a bit antenatal. So he came round and told us where we could to. And quite honestly, I don't remember leaving the pub. I know I had my head on his shoulder. I forget who was holding my feet. Anyway, we got outside, and now picture this, if you can. We were standing on the pavement, just the 2 of us, you know, talking about, you know, this, that, and the other. Mostly the other. And I don't know what I said to upset him. I know I mentioned the price of plums, and he suddenly went berserk, and he made a lunge at me. Well, I don't know if you've ever been lunged outside a pub at 11 o'clock. It's a shocking feeling, you know. I did the first thing that came into my head. I shot down this side turning, which I thought was an escape route, and it turned out to be a cul-de-sac. And I was stood there with me back to the brick wall and my legs in 2 dustbins with a John West salmon tin where it mattered most. With the lid up. Oh, those jagged edges. And there was him with his good conduct medals clanking away. And his string vest at half-mast. So I thought to myself, well, this is it tonight, Gladys. Death or dishonour. And then I thought, well, I'm not bleeding dying yet. And then he started, you know, all the manipulation with the hands. Have you had it? And he was trying to tell me this was Japanese jiu-jitsu. But they must be a filthy lot if that's all they mess about. No wonder they've got wonky eyes. Anyway, after about 5 minutes, he put his woodbine out and he shot off. I don't know where he went to. And of course, I'd got no... got no money left. I had to walk home, about 2.5 miles it must have been, and I got to my turning, so I thought to myself, now, it's no good me sort of charging in and having a scene with the old boy, because all he's going to say is, you know, sort of, where have you been, who have you been with, and how much have you managed to spend? So I thought, what I'll do, I'll take all my clothes off downstairs, and I'll just sort of slide up and creep into the Chamber of Horrors. And if he says anything, I should just say, you know, I was watching the epilogue and I nodded off. Picked the bones out of that. So I got to my turning, I got a stitch on, all my clothes off, and I was up the stairs. Everything in the garden was lovely, not a sound. And I got to the bit where it sort of turns round the bend at the top, you know. And I got the shocker. I was on top of a 29 bus. And all these people, they all turned round, you know, all sober. As if they'd never seen a woman with no clothes on top of a bus before. Oh, I just stood there, you know. I still had my earrings on. I thought, well, I'll stare them out. Let one of them make the first move. And one fella did. Dirty, filthy beast. Bless him. So, you see, it just shows you what can happen after half a glass of Christmas cake. Now, I brought something to read for you tonight, which I thought you might be interested in. This is a letter I've had from my youngest boy, my Ernie. He's out in the Middle East. He's a soldier in the army. And he's on our side, so it's all right. You can sleep safely in your beds tonight. Or whatever else you finish up. You know, your own business, but now, this is from I wish you could see my other boy, young Nigel. He's the one with the brains. Takes after me. He's only 19, and as young as that boy is, he is now being detained to give Her Majesty pleasure. So she must think something of him. Anyway, this is from my urn. He says, "Dear Sir or Madam," shocking memory, "I am writing this very slow as I know you cannot read very quick." Is he enjoying himself, though? He's out in Mombasa. Lovely people, those Mombassas. But he said, no, he said in one of his letters, he said they're a bit kinky, you know, all the fellas wear their hair sort of parted with mud. And all the women have these soup plates in their gob. Oh, any time's dinner time over there. Now, he says, I'm writing... Oh, I've done that, haven't I? Right, very slow. I have got so many holes in my socks, I can put them on 14 different ways. He's enjoying himself, though. He says, out here, life is one long round of picnics, parties, and balls. The week before last, it was all picnics. Last week, it was all parties. And this week, it has all been cancelled. So he must be enjoying himself, on the whole. Now, I can't follow this next bit. He says, I would have put £2 in for you, but I have stuck the envelope down. He takes after his father in that bit, whoever he was. Never even took his cap off. And I was eating chips at the time. And then he finishes up, may God keep you from your loving son, Ernie. I think it's Ernie, or Elsie. Anyway, he's coming home in, I suppose about 6 months. Mind you, he's going to find a difference. Because, you know, when my 2 boys were only little, they were the only kids in our street. And now, God, you can't move for them. Because, you know, there's a woman living down our street by the name of Mrs Moore. She's got 14 kids, and that's a fact, all hanging round her door. And the thing that's always bothered me is how she keeps them fed. She was in the pub the other night, so I turned to her and I said, don't have any more, Mrs Moore. Mrs Moore, please, don't have any more. The more you have, the more you'll want, they say, and enough is as good as a feast any day. If you have many more, Mrs Moore, you'll have to rent the house next door. They're all right when they're here, but take my advice, oh dear, and don't have any more, Mrs Moore. And I told her, I said, if anyone should know about kids, I should. Because, you know, I'm just a simple mother, and it's hard to realise. My kids have all grown up and gone away. I often think about them in the days when they were young. I've watched them in their work and in their play. I'm just a simple mother, and I worry night and day, and I think about them everywhere they go. And though it may seem strange, I know I'll never change, and not one of them would want me to, I know.